Hey, this is Gerald. I'm just making another video for you guys. I just want to talk about life and about how to deal with everything that's going on in the world with the Great Reset by Klaus Schwab and all of that good stuff. So I have to be very careful what I say so my video doesn't get deleted. And because they are blocking some videos for certain types of information. So what I want to talk about is first I want to talk about the government and the government policies and how a lot of people are waking up and through their awakening, they're seeing through the lies of our society. Through their awakening. So everything that's going on in the world right now, right, we got Putin and he's because of Putin and the war in Ukraine, the energy prices have gone up, food shortages. And so actually with Bill Gates and all these elite type people, these big billionaires, what he's doing is he's buying up all the land, and even in the UK, United Kingdom, they're actually paying farmers not to farm. So they're actually paying farmers not to farm. Because it's a manufactured food crisis. And what we should know is that all the topsoil is being eroded. In 60 years, in several decades, there'd be no more topsoil if we don't turn to more sustainable farming methods. And so, on a longer time frame, there is a food crisis. But in the short term, it's very much a manufactured crisis. Because they want people to be dependents. They want you to say, oh, please, government, help me when I can't pay my bill, when I can't pay your energy bill. And they want to take these things like oil, and they want to make it so that these commodities like oil, that they become so expensive so that you can only get them from government. So they want to create this culture of dependence so they can just ration out these commodities so they can control people. And by the way, it's not just with commodities. I mean, what they want to do is create this whole new world order, this new Great Reset. Even Klaus Schwab, it's not a conspiracy, He wrote a book called The Great Reset. So not a conspiracy, this is reality, guys. So here I am in the heart of nature, breathing in that good-ass prana. Baby, shout out to Infinite Waters. Please subscribe to my channel, please. Don't have a lot of viewers. I want to talk more about the government. That's really what this video is about. It's about the government. I want to tell you guys that the people that control the world, who are the people that control the world, right? There's the Annunaki that control the Anunnaki gods. So we're taught in school that in ancient Mesopotamia that the Anunnaki were just mythical beings, gods of the ancient Mesopotamians, and they were just mythical, and these people were naive and just believed in such things. Well, if you look at these clay tablets, look at the ancient tablets of the Mesopotamians, this was a very real thing for them. Gilgamesh and these people, these gods were actually real beings that they actually encountered. They were not just mythical or existing in their minds. These were real beings that they actually encountered. And every ancient culture talks about ancient aliens. They talk about the sky people, right? They talk about the sky people. Right? That's what even the Native Americans, they talk about this. So this is a very real thing, guys. What they did, the Anunnaki did, was they came to Earth. They came to Earth and they saw that humans were in a very primitive state. So I'm going to get back to my topic on the government for first. They came to Earth and they saw that humans were in a very primitive state. Okay? Because humans were actually still Homo erectus. So they weren't even Homo sapiens yet. And if you go back to the Gnostic texts as well, so I'm really using Gnostic texts as my sources in this. If you go back to the ancient Gnostic texts, which by the way were discovered in Egypt in the early 20th century, and were actually not translated for a very long time. You can also listen to the Gnostic texts on YouTube. You can listen to audio translations of it. It's very cool, very interesting stuff. And there's a reason why the church persecuted the Gnostics and burned all their books, 1,000 years ago. But knowledge survives. The truth can't be kept away from ever. And let me tell you, the elites who are in power right now, these world leaders, they know the true history of humanity. They know the true history. And the true history of humanity is that we were created as a slave species. A slave class. They wanted humans. Legend has it that the Annunaki on their planet Nibiru, they needed gold, I believe, to fix their atmosphere. Look, check it out. The books of Zechariah Stitchin. They needed gold because their atmosphere was eroding. They didn't have enough gold on their home planet. They traveled to Earth to get gold. And even on Earth today, gold is a very valuable commodity. It's very scarce. It's very expensive to mine. And it's a better investment than stocks right now. Don't personally own gold, but... So what they did was humans were very ignorant back then. They're Homo erectus. They got humans to mine the gold for them because they didn't want to mine it themselves. So humans were, once again, created as a slave species. And I'm not absolutely sure on this, but I believe that they genetically engineered human beings to create Homo sapiens. So Homo sapiens, we did not evolve from apes. If we evolved from apes, then why aren't the apes evolved? They say, oh, well, that's separate evolution, right? Well, if it's separate, then how can you say we evolved from apes, right? No, explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm 5. You ever wonder, these politicians, you never get a straight answer from politicians. They just look at you with this blank face or laugh at you, right? Because that's what manipulators do. They laugh at you. They laugh at serious topics. They don't have an answer for you. Because lies don't have an answer for you. There's no you can't explain lies to a 5-year-old. All they would say is, oh, it's political stuff and you're too young to understand. What even like Einstein said, if you can't explain it to a little kid, then it's that you're not very good at explaining it. Problems with you. Problems with the teacher. And so we see the Anunnaki as a very nefarious force. So there is a force on this planet that doesn't want to see human beings wake up. Very strong force on this planet. And look, YouTube and all this, they don't have to agree with what I'm saying. That's fine. I don't have a lot of views yet. I do have 1 strike on YouTube, so just so you guys know. I just started making videos, so I have to be careful what I say. But I'm just talking about history. So you can look at that. They were called the Nag Hammadi texts, the ancient Gnostic texts, and they talk about this, and they speak of who God was. So the God that we talk about in the Old Testament, that God. They said that he was a false god, an archon. The chief archon was a Yagaboth. So what there was in the... was, trying to remember. Let me just wait a second. So there was, and he was called the Demiurge. So the Demiurge is sort of like the God of the Old Testament. And the Gnostics say that he wasn't the true God, so it was considered heresy by the Christian church. And the Demiurge, he thought that he was the one who created all the archons. So the Demiurge, he believed that he was arrogant, and he believed that he had created the material world. But he wasn't in charge of the spiritual world, just the material. So he was very ignorant, and he sees himself as the true creator. He created the 7 archons, the chief of them, Yagaboth. And so this is heresy by the church. But it's actually more legitimate than a lot of Christian texts, in my opinion. Because it was not uncovered for thousands of years. So it's actually perhaps the most ancient Christian text ever discovered. So it hasn't been tampered with. So we see how a lot of these religious texts, they've been tampered with by the people in power, the people in authority. The book of Revelation, 4 horsemen, that's been tampered with. See, history, including religion, is written by the victors. Even today, we know very little about the poor ancient Romans. We only know about the elites. So, what you should know is that true history is very difficult to come by, and it wasn't even, this stuff was lost for thousands of years, Gnostic texts, and they were found. And they say that he was so arrogant that he was cast out of heaven. So you have to understand that, and even in the Old Testament, right? He says, "I'm a jealous God," and he punishes people, and he's very nasty with people. What you should know is that even in the New Testament, when Jesus is talking about God, you ever notice how he says that heaven was within you? The God that he's talking about is not the same God that they're having in the Old Testament. That's not the same God. His Father is not the same God, which is what the Gnostics are saying. And it's very deep, and you can look into it. I'm not an expert on it, but it's very interesting stuff, Gnosticism. Considered heresy by the church. And when you look at a lot of these church people, right? Like, they say Pope Francis, that he actually is believed he's actually a Satanist, and even a lot of these popes, I've even heard of them abusing or even killing little children, little girls, the popes of the Catholic Church. I forget the name of him, but Restinger, right? Or Wrestling, that's his name, I think. They say that he was a very bad man. Very child abuser and stuff. And that, you ever wonder why there's so many pedophiles and so many child abusers in the church today? And this Restinger guy, he protected a lot of them and dropped a lot of these abuse cases. So it really makes you think, are they really... Because you have to understand that these popes and stuff, they know that that the Christian religion, they know who really wrote it. They know about that stuff, about the Gnostics. But they sold their souls. That's why. And they know this. So I'm going to talk about this stuff a little bit more. A lot of it is very scary. I do go on a lot of tangents here because I just started this YouTube channel, not really professional. But and I'm really just trying to talk about history here, and then I'm going to touch on governments. So you look at the Hopi Indians. They believed that they were reptilians, humanoids that lived underground, who were also regarded as demons by the Zulu shamans in Africa. So the Hopi Indians in North America, in the West, like near Los Angeles, like, modern day Los Angeles, I believe there were tunnels that they lived under. And actually there was a guy I believe in the 1930s, and he created a technology which allowed him to use some type of radio signals to detect structures underground. And he detected that there were these underground caverns underground. And he saw it under Los Angeles, and it went up into the mountains, the Cascades, I believe. And so he started a dig to try to uncover it. It wasn't even the news. Oh, wizard people discovered underground. And he did this, and then for some person, the high-ranking government official or something, stopped the whole project, and nobody's ever been able to do it again. So they're trying to hide this information, this knowledge from people. I mean, there's so many mysteries in this world, in this universe. Are they really living underground? Who are these beings? And I do think that they're called, whatever you call it, the inorganic ones, reptilians or annunaki. I mean, there is a dark force. And they've been controlling humanity for thousands of years. You ever wonder why most people are on the conveyor belt lifestyle? It's go to school, get a job, have a family. Then you go to work and you have no time for your family or the people you love. Why is that? Most people are slaves. I mean, what's the difference between us and animals? Well, we're the only species on this planet that has to pay to live and eat. So we still are slaves in a way. Do you think that's a bit strange? It's believed the Anunnaki gave money, and they taught money, and they taught language to the ancient Mesopotamians. They created these civilizations. See, our ancestors come from the stars. We didn't evolve on this planet. So this secret history of humanity is very important. And who are these royals? Here's another thing. There's many actually royal families in Europe and Asia and stuff like that, Africa. And these European royals, how do they come into power? Who put them into power? How did these billionaires get their billions? Do they just do it through intelligence and hard work and luck? No. They didn't. You don't get to be in a position like that unless the inorganic ones, I'll call them, put you there. Unless they put you there, you're not going to be in that position. So in a way, these people are they're making deals with these people. They can't talk. They can't tell you everything because they're blackmailed. Their family could get hurt. You gotta know that. So you actually, as the average person, sometimes you actually are more free than a lot of these elite people. You know. And so why are the governments so oppressive? Did you know? And nobody can argue with this, and all historians will tell you. Who's responsible for most of the human rights violations, most of the human suffering in the world, the wars? Who started it? Governments. In fact, scientists will tell you that even genocides, genocides? The only way a genocide can only occur if there's a government that's starting a war. It's not possible for genocides to happen unless there's a war, unless there's a government. You ever notice that? Wars don't happen unless there's a government involved. They just don't. They just don't. You look at the Nazis, Stalin, Mao Zedong. You look at all these people, in the Cambodian guy too. So even today, human rights violations are happening. And now what they do is it's covert human rights violations are what they're doing. Covert human suffering. There's a force on this planet that feeds off the suffering of children, of the tears of children. There is. You talk about child protective services. Or in Netherlands, Vallectas, Jeugdzorg, youth care. Netherlands, there's a huge debate going on that there's too many out-of-home placements when they take children from their mothers. It's horrible. And if you already have a child taken, they can actually take a child from you when it's born, got an out-of-the-womb placement. And a lot of people are ignorant to this, that they have no real rights. And these judges and these social workers, anything that's wrong with the child, they then blame on the parents. They blame it on the parents. Yes, that's what they do. Which is insane. So if a child has autism, they'll blame that on the parents. If the child's suffering in foster care or sad, they won't realize it's because she was taken from her mother. They'll say, oh, it's because she's a bad mother. She makes her daughter sick. Judges will say, oh, it's your responsibility your child is suffering in foster care. So these people, they refuse to be held accountable. They refuse to take responsibility for their actions. These government officials, these judges, these social workers. And in the Netherlands, if you question that system, say, oh, it's wrong what they did, the judge will then blame someone else, who will then blame someone else. In fact, social workers, rarely are they held accountable for perjury. And so what they're doing is since they never face consequences for their actions, they're on a power trip. They think what they do is right or something. Who really created these systems? Is this organization really there to protect children? No, it's not. In fact, it's by design. It was created to actually hurt children. This is a subject very dear to my heart. It's hard for me to talk about. I'm going to talk about this a little bit here. How this is everything's connected. Everything's connected, all this stuff. And we're being oppressed as humans. You ever notice that among asylum seekers, if you apply for asylum, they just divide countries into good, safe countries and unsafe countries. And if you're in what's termed a safe country, like European countries, like Netherlands, which is actually a very oppressive country, people are so delusional and nationalistic and arrogant, they think their culture and their way of life is superior to others. Yes, especially in Netherlands. And they use that nationalism to brainwash people so they don't realize they're actually, if you ever said, oh, there's a human rights violation in this country, they never will take you seriously. Oh, it's a safe country. Only bad people get oppressed. So we live in a society that if someone has their child taken, those parents will then be demonized. Private investigators won't help them find the child. Lawyers have almost no power in the courts. And you're guilty until proven innocent. So the family court is the opposite of criminal court. Why is it that families are treated worse in the Netherlands and in the U.S. also than criminals are? Why do they have less rights than criminals, than pedophiles? Why are the church protecting these pedophiles? And what you'll find is that among government officials, there's a lot of pedophiles. Yeah, among high-ranking ones. They use that to blackmail them. They force them to engage in these activities with children so they can film them and blackmail them if they don't obey. So you've got these government officials, even high-ranking ones, they're even more terrified of the psychopaths above them. And the really low-ranking people, like social workers who go to take children, the Holocaust and other ones, they're brainwashed by that ideology that parents are bad, that all problems with a child can be blamed on the parents. So it's a very simplistic ideology. It's a very simplistic one. Very simplistic. And it does make me angry. You ever notice that anger is very feared in society? Why is anger so feared in society? Because they want you to be passive, docile sheep, like Hindu cows. They want you to just let them do these things to you, violate your rights, and never complain about it. But oftentimes, people are very aware of when their human rights are being violated. And why is there no force to help people that have their human rights violated? They're abusing children. And it's horrible. As an empathetic person, it's hard for me to watch. Did you know that there's financial incentives from taking children from their mothers? Yes. In the Netherlands, they get 500 euros every day for childs they take, for children they take. And yet in the news, I hear lots of things about how horrible it is that they take these children. But then they'll try to cover up that news. The mainstream media will come in and they'll say, oh, we just need more money to fix the problem. 500 million euros now. And so, we need to abolish these jobs where people are getting paid to violate people's rights while they're patted on the back and treated like saints. And these kids, did you know that children are far more likely to be abused in foster homes than in their own homes with their biological parents? Even they're many times more likely to be abused, to be raped. 75% of children in foster care experience abuse in their lifetime in the Netherlands. So it's child abuse. And I think that the elites, they regard these children as trash. Because they're very insecure. They want to feel good about their own children, their own family. So they want to go oppress these other families. Because they think there's too many people in the world, that people are bad for the earth. And that goes back to the Great Reset plan. They want to abolish 25% of the population. They will do it through wars, famine, through all these things. So it's absolutely terrifying what's happening right now. And I do think that they're going to lose. I've even seen news and media about how bad the toss is, how bad it is that they take children, how psychopathic police are and stuff like that. It's a sick and disgusting system run by these child protective services people. It's a sick and disgusting system run by money. It's a sick and disgusting system run by money and power. And it's not about helping families. It's about oppressing families. It's about making children suffer. It's wrong. And we need to stand up to this. The problem is in the Netherlands, the culture is toxic. Everything they've been taught since they were children is lies. They're taught that you shouldn't meddle in political affairs because that's not your business. In fact, if people go into law, you're considered to be a person that failed at everything else. That's why you went into law. And that's how they've kept the ignorance going. How they've kept it so Dutch people have very little rights in family law. They want to attack life itself. They want to attack the womb of the mother. They're attacking life itself. Attacking life itself. So that's what you guys have to know. Don't even get me started on climate change. Yeah, so they're attacking the womb of the mother. They're attacking life itself. Okay? So this is a war. You think Lord of the Rings, that's just a movie? In Lord of the Rings, Morgoth, there's two. There's Iluvatar who created the people. There's the Maya who are like saints, like Gandalf. And there's people that sold their souls to Sauron. Sauron's servant of Morgoth. So Sauron is not actually the main guy. The main bad guy, he's like the Archon. The main bad guy is the Demiurge. Or, this analogous to the Demiurge, is Morgoth. So Morgoth is the antithesis to life in Lord of the Rings. The opposite of Iluvatar, who is the good god who created the world. So Morgoth wants to destroy all life. Existence itself. He's attacking existence itself. So they're at war with this force that wants to destroy all life. Existence itself. So this is really deep stuff. This is really evil stuff that we're up against. Anti-awakening forces. Archons. Annunaki. And what we need to do is we need to protest this stuff. Because we have power. There's power in numbers. You see, the bad guys, they all work together. In real life, the bad guys, they pretend to be the good guys. Yeah. Not like the movies. But in the movies, good guys win. Yeah, that's how it works in real life, too. And so I've seen a lot of people. I've seen lawyers that fight for human rights. I've spoken with them. I've seen them lose all hope. They lose their lawsuits. They lose all hope. They stop fighting. I've seen that. I say if you need help and someone violates your rights to take your children, just go to a support group, they'll tell you. I'm sorry to hear about your situation. They don't really care. But they've given up hope. They've sold out. It's like if you take 9 steps, then you turn around and you only got one more step before you finish. So we really need to fight for our human rights. I think people are realizing that. Instead of dehumanizing people that have their human rights violated, we need to fight, right? Okay. Please subscribe, okay? That's enough for today, and I'll make more videos. Thank you. Bye.